welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Mondays is my good friend, Michele Berra. Michele, what's up?
I would say finally on Monday. It's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks that our day was not the proper day to podcast, I would say.
That is so true. Feels good to be back on a Monday.
Well, it actually feels terrible because last week I was skiing in the Alps, so it was much better then. But let's say that since I was forced to be back, then podcasting with you on Monday is actually very good.
There we go. So the Thunder have lost 2 games in a row to 2 opponents that are less than stellar. They are currently third in the Western Conference, behind the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. Nuggets and Timberwolves aren't playing particularly great themselves right now, so the Thunder have a chance to right the ship. There's nothing unreachable about the top of the Western Conference, but the Thunder schedule it's not that it's going to get difficult, certainly not difficult tonight, but it's just jam-packed. And Mark has kind of addressed that several times, that they're going to have to play a lot of different guys over this stretch to kind of keep people fresh, and also keeping the long term in mind with the playoffs. You don't want this team to get completely exhausted by playoff time and have nothing left in the tank. But tonight they play Washington. They better smash Washington.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, after you lose 2 and then you play in Washington, you get a break. It's like there's only one more 2-day break the rest of this month, and this is one of them. You lose to Atlanta, second night of a back-to-back. It was kind of whatever, and then you lose just a game in Brooklyn. And you can give the Thunder some credit that they didn't ever quit. They really tried to get back in both of these games, but it felt like a repeat of the Atlanta game in Brooklyn on Friday night. I don't know if you felt the same way.
Yeah, I felt exactly the same way. I think that many of the issues were the same, not all the issues. I think that on some part they played even worse than against the Hawks. For example, on the boards, they were smashed by Atlanta. By Brooklyn. And I think that the common thing is that they had a bad night on the line, which is not very common. They didn't get there enough, and when they did, it was not pretty, which is something that I don't think that is a trend or anything. I don't believe that Shea learned how to miss free throws now. It's so it's something that happens, and it's something that I think we should discuss, but not hey, what happens? What is happening with Shea? It's something that it can be legs, it can be a little bit of lack of focus. After playing a lot of home games, you get to Atlanta on a very, very bad day because your plane started whatever hour, and then 2 days later you're in Brooklyn, and the starters played okay, and I think it was the bench. It was basically non-existent in Brooklyn, which is probably one of the first times where you can see nobody off the bench did anything. Kenrich had 1 rebound.
Yeah, K-Rich was not good in that game. Yeah, and it kind of goes back to, and it's funny because people were kind of up in arms about Kenrich not playing in Atlanta. Well, then you play him in Brooklyn, it's he just wasn't even effective in that game. So, Kenrich is good and he helps in a lot of ways, but he's not the end all be all or the fix for every situation. Also, I just can't bring myself to even be upset about this. This is the NBA. Every single team goes through this on some kind of scale at some point in the season, especially a young team. And I know I've hammered that point so much over the past couple of years, but it still is true. It's still true that this is the second youngest team in the league, and you just have to kind of be ready for it. This is what it's like watching a normal, good basketball team in the NBA. It's these kinds of stretches where you're hey, this should never happen. We should just put this all they should be able to just kind of coast through these games. They're more talented. They're this or that. The truth is, like, they're still playing against a sliver of the 400 best players in the world, and you can lose to anybody on any given night. It's happened twice in a row. Man, they almost won. I fully believe, and I think we talked about this on Friday, but like, I fully believe had that Isaiah Joe shot gone down, the Thunder would have won that game. Like,
Sure. And probably they win also this one. To be honest with you, I think that it happens. And I did Thunder After Dark by myself, and I wasn't too mad. I wasn't too pissed off because these games are like lessons, very important lessons that if you let the game slip away from you, if you don't find a way to change the course of the game, this is something that can happen no matter the difference in talent. And it's good that they had just 3 games of this sort. I mean, the one against Denver, the first one, and then there's 2 where they got down big. And against Denver, they never got back into it. Over the past 2 games, they did, mainly because the opponents was not as good as Denver. I think that not letting the game slip away and do stuff on the margin to keep it close, it's very important. Maybe do 2-3 fouls in a row. Maybe do the hack a Claxton before and not at the end of the game.
Hack a
Clax. Maybe trying to do stuff like that just to make to put the game in pause and not allow the Avalanche to keep going. Because when you are down 32, yeah, you can say, good job, guys. You gave yourself a chance. But it's also like Brooklyn not playing really for a lot of minutes. And I know that this happened against Boston and against Houston. And guess what? In both occasions, the Thunder were up big and they won the game. Because this is what happens many, many times. Even if the Avalanche even if OKC was able to close with the Hawks, sure, they did, like Dallas did against the Thunder. But, I mean, it still counts as a loss. And I think that the lesson is, hey, we can't go down this big. We can go down 10, 12. Yes, we can do that. And take over and get back to the game. Like, more than 15, 18, yeah, that's a no.
Yeah, I'm with you. At that point, when they're down 30, I'm like, I actually don't want them to win. Like, it's cool that they're fighting back. But, like, I want them to try as hard as they can and not win, because you're right. Like, it teaches them, and it's like it's human nature, like, you kind of want to see what you can get away with, at times, where you don't maybe want to put forth the effort that you need to, but you think you can get by with this kind of effort, and then it's way better for people in the long run for that to blow up in their face in a moment than it is for them to like come through and be successful, because it just like reinforces the idea that like, oh, we can just we can goof around. We're so good. Like, we are so good that we can just show up and give whatever effort in the first quarter and then get back into this. Like, no, like, you have to do it for 48 minutes. It's all the stuff they say all the time.
Yeah.
It's 48-minute game, 0-0, all those things. They did not live into that identity and like play into that identity in those 2 games. Like, they just didn't. And they're not perfect. It's a group of people. They're not going to be perfect. NBA teams are always, always, always going to have struggles. Every single season, no matter how good they are. I mean, the only one I could think of that maybe didn't was the 73-win Warriors.
Yeah.
Like, everybody else has struggles with consistency, and even they lost the title that year. They didn't win the whole thing.
No.
This is a hard league. This is a really hard league, and you have to learn the lessons. And this young team still has a ton of lessons to learn, and you can't bypass the lessons that you need to learn. I know it sounds like so cliche, or it sounds, like coach speak or whatever, but I mean, it's just the truth. And also, they're still really good. Like, this team is really, really good. I was looking up, excuse me, some stats on this team, and they just kept to the top. They're first in points per possession in isolation.
Yeah.
This season, which is wild, which is like Shea and Dub, basically, and Chet.
Yeah.
They're fourth in points per possession in transition, first in frequency. The first in frequency was the one that I really wanted to see. When
Which
you
is
look at
also
it,
something that they missed in those games.
totally,
Like to be able to turn the team over. And sorry for me to get back a little bit on the game, but
Yeah.
I think it was James Anderson on Twitter, or maybe Hoopstock69, I don't remember, who mentioned that against Atlanta, it was clear that he didn't have the legs. And you don't really see that. And I think that also someone on the Dream Team show said the same. You don't really see that unless you pay attention on rotations and on just verticality.
Mm-hmm.
And they were really, really late on many closeout in corners against both Brooklyn and Atlanta. And that is, hey, yes, we had the energy because Boston gave us the energy, but they had a very, very difficult stretch. And we are not discussing this if the bench somehow finds a way to be effective from the 3-point range.
Yeah, just one guy.
Yeah, exactly. So
not like the whole bench, just one guy. Can we get Isaiah Joe to have a hot game here?
Yeah, exactly. You need just that, and this really doesn't happen. So you don't shoot well, and on top you have this emotional and physical burden over the past 10 days. And again, as you mentioned, this is the NBA. If you struck out luck shooting wise, then these are wins that you can then go back and say, yeah, we did win those games, but we actually lost them. And instead it's, hey, we actually lost those games because A, we shoot badly, and B, we're not there defensively or
Dude, the defense, that was as bad as I've seen the defense all season in those two games. It was,
and not schematically. They were just a tad late, a tad soft.
Oh, tad soft, tad late, and probably more than a tad late. There were a lot of uncontested shots.
Yeah.
That just resulted and a lot of because the Thunder play smaller, they swarm a lot and they rely on scrambling out shooters.
Yeah.
That's just a part of the defense.
Yeah.
And you have to be absolutely 100% committed to the style of defense that they play, or else you will get burned.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they have been completely sold out, completely on board, doing exactly what they need to do, except for those two games where they were just, the interest wasn't there. They were like, all right, whatever, Jalen Johnson, you're not going to make it. Because maybe even scouting report had said Jalen Johnson's not a good shooter, and he's not some great shooter.
Yeah,
but he was that night, and they weren't scrambling to him. He had a lot of wide open shots, and so
and there were also
oh yeah, go ahead,
clear mistakes. You can't send three guys at Nick Claxton. I love the guy. I really like him as a player, and I would love for him to be a backup center and not a starting center because he's clearly a guy who can start. Yeah,
he was really good in that game.
You can't, if you are Josh Giddey, you can't stay that close. There were already two guys on the play, and he left Cam Johnson wide open in the corner. That can't happen. And as then Daniel Zanolini is saying in the chat, and Dennis Smith Jr. can't have 4 offensive rebounds. I think it was more, but okay.
Dennis Smith was awesome. Dennis Smith has been kind of awesome in this small, Gary Payton II kind of role.
Yeah,
for them. He kind of fills a similar role, good defender, athletic as all get out. He just detonated somebody yesterday. He's an interesting player and has been pretty good for them. And I think is probably close to a minimum guy that I think if he landed on a contender, that would be, I think he could help them. I'm not necessarily saying the Thunder because I don't think they need another small player on the perimeter, but man, you watch that team, the Nets are just stacked with players that good teams could use. And, yesterday they lost in embarrassing fashion. And, they're going to need to make some deals just to, this season's going to be a lost one. Not that they need to completely tank. I don't think they'll trade Michele, but they need to probably trade Claxton or they're going to have to pay him. That's the thing with Claxton. Royce O'Neal, they need to probably trade him too. He's still got a lot left in the tank. They need to really consider what they want to do with Cam Thomas. I don't know that they want to trade Cam Johnson. That's somebody I think could really help a lot of teams. But
on Cam
because
Thomas,
on
Cam Thomas, that was the other signal that when I saw the graphics at the beginning of the game, I said, "Yeah, there's no way OKC win this one." He was 0 out of 20 over the past 4 games.
Yeah, he couldn't make a thing for like what it seemed like forever.
Yeah,
and then the light turned back on for him.
Yeah, it was due.
He had like 16 points in like no time.
Yeah,
I mean it was actually pretty impressive.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean if you're Brooklyn, you look at your roster and say, okay, I probably want to keep Cam and Michele. It's like, what is Bridges' contract go to?
26, 27 per year. 3 more years.
Dude, it's so good. 21 this season. 23 next. 24.9 in 25-26.
All guaranteed. No player option.
Let's see. Oh man, I just lost it. I'll find it. Both those deals are so good for the Nets that it's almost like we just probably should keep them.
Yeah, but those deals will not help when they will have space to add another star. Like, yes, they can wait until the summer, maybe. I don't know. Ben Simmons is expiring, right?
Ben is expiring. Yes. No, he's not. 2 years. 2 years left.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's got another year left.
Yeah, it's
bad. It's bad.
So but for the next 2 years, they really can't do anything.
I know.
Like, unless they have a lot of assets. And the way in which you get a lot of assets is trading one of the two, not Michele. Cam Johnson is a nice player. He's a very nice player who can be very good. Are you in on the idea of bringing Cam Johnson in for like a gazillion picks?
A gazillion? How much is a gazillion?
I don't know.
Give me some realistic idea. Trade deadline is 1 month away, by the way. We're 1 month from the trade deadline.
So Cam Johnson is on a friendly, controllable deal. And a guy like Cam Johnson, not like Lauri Markkanen, is a guy that you can slide into a fourth guy, sort of.
Fourth or fifth guy, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he was that.
Yeah, exactly. So you really can't see him fitting with the current core without really changing too much of the hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Because he would.
I've heard from different people that like both he and Finney Smith wouldn't mind being in a small market.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean Cam Johnson efficiency with a guy like J-Dub or Shea or Chet with the ball in their hands will be insane because he would really be guarded by the 4th/5th best guy on the other team, and he is a shooter. I think that the versatility comes from the fact that he can get up his shots against basically anybody. Whereas if you guard Isaiah Joe with a taller player, he has a little bit less chances to be effective, which is something that actually many teams are starting to do, and it is paying off because it's different. So I would not mind. The deal would have to include either Kazan or Giddey, I think. For Brooklyn to be interested.
For Cam?
Yeah, I think so. Why not?
I don't know. I mean, it's either that or the premium picks. Like we're talking the 26 unprotected Clippers pick.
Yeah, but it's a bit too rich for me. But yeah, maybe it's you can say, yeah, but then it's not really worth it. You can protect it a little bit when you trade it to them.
Would you rather trade Giddey than that pick?
I don't know. I don't really know.
You have to say right now. You have to say right this second what you would do.
Wow. Wow, you're very, very, very big on the screen right now. It's scaring me a little bit.
Tried to intimidate you.
Yeah, you did.
Right now.
I think that you can trade 3 first-round picks for a guy like him if those 3 are not really premium picks.
Yeah.
The 2026 seems a little too rich for me.
Yeah.
Like 3 first-rounders are already like quite the package.
I tend to agree. With that. Man,
if you want to include that,
if I'm giving up Josh, like it better.
No. I think it's too much. It's too much.
Clear upgrade. I'm trying to see if we can get to like.
The problem with Cam is that he doesn't solve your rebounding issue.
Yeah, but like, what one player would solve your rebounding issue that fits the way the Thunder play? Like, can you find me that guy? I haven't.
I mentioned. No, I was saying that compared to Giddey, he would make things worse on the rebounding department.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, he would. Yes, true.
Yeah. So I'm not improving, and while I'm like I'm getting worse.
Yeah, but the offensive trade-off with the shooting, like, I mean, it's no secret that, and you know this, you've been beating this drum more than anybody. It's like, who's the player that has the highest, plus minus with Shea? Like, who makes Shea better than anybody on the team? It's Isaiah Joe. It's Isaiah Joe. And that's what the numbers spit out. And like, that's why Shea and like all these bench guys are the ones that are the best, that have the best plus minus. Now, to me, you have to ask yourself the question, like, does Cam Johnson do enough of the other things that are required to be a Thunder player? And I have my doubts about that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think it's such a bad thing to be a play finisher, especially if you're 6'8" and can really just shoot the lights out. Like if you could convince the Nets to do Finney Smith and Cam Johnson to OKC, which both of those guys, I have major questions about whether they can actually execute the things the Thunder want to. But you could see how those guys would be helpful. And then it's basically like Giddey and a couple picks and like cap filler
Bertans
to get there. I mean, it'd have to be Bertans, probably have to be Vava, probably have to be Poku.
No, don't touch my Vava. He's starting to get better. I think that the units with him and J-Dub are actually helpful. And this is also why, well, not why, but I think that we have to say that there are units now with Shea and Giddey that are playing a little bit more. And those units, boy, oh boy, those are not going anywhere. Whereas when J-Dub stays with Vava on the court, those units are pretty nice.
Yeah, cleaning the glass. It's in limited minutes because we have a limited sample. But with Vasily Mičić on the court, they're like a plus 50 right now, according to Cleaning the Glass. Like he's helping a lot, and he's going to play a lot this month. And I think it's going to be like a big test for if he can be somebody that is like in the rotation, going down the stretch of the season. And he hasn't really even shot the ball well yet, which I think he will.
Yeah, but he's very good at like igniting offense.
Oh yeah, he's not fast, but he's good at making the Thunder play fast.
Yeah,
which is great. And I would like to just see him as just a part of what they do.
Yeah,
and he drives the ball too, which is like a very Thunder thing. Like he does the Thunder things.
Yeah,
this is a team that's first in drives. They're third in field goal percentage on their drives at 53.8%. Like he's a part of that. He also helps with their catch and shoot stuff because he finds great shots when he drives. Yeah. The Thunder are first in percentage in catch and shoot. They're ninth in frequency, and they're only like 2.5 less than the Kings, who are first. Catch and shoot shots.
Yeah. Do you have the frequency in 3-point shot?
Ninth.
In catch and shoot in general, or in catch and shoot threes, or in
Catch and shoot threes. Catch and shoot
okay.
threes. Yeah.
Okay.
So like that number could get better. And depending on like if they did acquire somebody, if they don't, like honestly, I still think it's probably pretty inconsequential whether they acquire somebody at the deadline or not this year. Like I don't think
Yeah.
that it's going to change anything that they could or would be willing to do is going to change the trajectory of them. Like somebody's bringing up Trey Murphy in the chat,
Yeah, sure.
like Alistair Hogg, great listener, been with us for a while. Yeah, Michele was beating that drum at the draft. That would have been the time to get him. No chance they're getting him. They will deal so many other players first before they trade Trey Murphy. He's also like an incredible locker room guy. Trey is. Everybody loves him. He's athletic. He's young. He can shoot. He's starting to put it together with some off the dribble stuff too. Like they're not trading him.
And also, to be completely fair, he would mess up completely OKC salary cap going forward, which is one of the reasons why I think that the Cam Johnson thing is actually interesting, because it actually helps your cap moving forward, because it adds like someone very controllable, a very good player, a proven player that played some playoffs, that he's a legit shooter, which is something that you really need. You can't say that in 3 years he would not be useful to you. He just is. And yes, I know that removing Giddey is something that you say, yeah, I'm not ready to do that. Yeah. But even in the best moments, to me, the lineups with Giddey are struggling compared to others. I've yet to watch a game where I see, okay, Giddey was crucial to win this one. And the last one was against...
He was really good against Denver, in Denver.
Yes, he was good. He was definitely good. He was not the first, not the second, not the third best player on the court.
There were times where he was controlling the game in that one, where it was like, oh, okay, there's Josh is back. There he is.
Yeah, but how many times was him like finding good ways to finish at the rim?
There were a couple possessions that I remember. I'd have to go look back at it.
Yeah,
but I remember
there were. And it's, when he can finish, he is effective. But the point is, we have so many players that can do that as effective as he does. And the reason why he's doing that is that the players, that the opponents are just scheming to allow him to just bet on him being that.
Yeah.
Which is something that at some point you pay.
Yeah, I mean, Josh at the rim, or at least 0 to 3 feet, according to Basketball Reference, 59%,
which is good, but not very good.
Dort's 58. But then, like, you look at guys like Casey Wallace, it doesn't take nearly as much. Like, it doesn't drive nearly as much. He's 75%. Isaiah Joe's 83%. Vava's 85.7% around the rim. Like Shea, who takes a ton of them, 73%. I feel like we talked about this last week.
Another stratosphere.
Dub is 73.8.
Yeah.
Better than Shea right now.
Yeah. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm saying. It's not that Giddey's damaging this team or anything. I just think that the prototype of player, like if you play him with Shea, you're just basically saying, okay, I need to play him there because otherwise the other lineups are not good. And Shea can lift. And I'm like, this was the problem with KD and Russ, that you could say, yeah, they lift a ton. I mean, can you see that? Like with him, you can play Perk. Sure, you can. But try to get someone else and see that they don't have to lift them. And you can actually see, I mean, I remember that spread pick and roll with Ibaka at the 5. That was like, when you saw those moments, oh, I see it now. Now they are really unguardable.
Yeah.
And to me, when Giddey is on the court, they are not unguardable. They are extremely good. They can feast on many teams. But you could see like teams saying, okay, we will let that guy beat us. And if he does, great. If he doesn't, which is probably more nights than than not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been better for sure recently.
Sure.
Like there was a time where people were freaking out. It's like, oh, this guy, you can't even play him. He stinks. You can't, like, this is not going to work. You have to bench him. You have to do this. You have to do that. You know, like, he's been pretty good recently, and like the lineups with him have been better recently. Like, they're not negative, you know, anymore. He's actually been quite positive recently.
Define quite.
Above 0. It's quite above 0. Hold on, I'm trying to filter it on Cleaning the Glass where we can like target like important minutes, because like this team actually has like quite a bit of garbage time, even though like the new cool thing for NBA coaches to say is like they don't believe in garbage time. It does exist, and thank you, Cleaning the Glass, for filtering it out because it like does matter. And I get the coach's point, sure, but when we're talking about usable data, like I'm sure that they would like to filter out garbage time too, even though you think it doesn't exist. It exists. Okay. So with Giddey on the court, they are a plus 3.6, which like a few weeks ago was negative. Still not, that's not great. That's not even that good. Like, it's pretty good. And so I'm not here to say like Giddey is like some incredible player. People don't see it. He should make the All-Star team. Like, you should be voting for him today. Like, I'm not saying that. But also, he's really young. They're still going through this investigation. I don't think they're going to trade Josh Giddey. One, I don't think you could with the ongoing investigation. Trade deadline's a month away. You know, they have a decision to make, and we have a track record of what happens with players that are due an extension that don't get one. And so the extension negotiations with Josh this summer are going to be really interesting. You know, I'm sure he'll be on the team. I'd be shocked if he wasn't on the team. But like we've seen, you know, Sam do some stuff when it's time for these guys to be extended, and they may take it into the season and kind of figure it out. But like the truth is, like his time on his rookie scale deal is coming to a close here next season, and usually Sam makes a decision whether that's extend or trade. You know, he traded Jeff Green. He traded James Harden. He ended up giving Enes Kanter the extension. You know, going into he actually took him unusually for the Thunder, took him into restricted free agency and allowed the Blazers to give him like this giant deal. That's a more unusual thing than the others. And so we'll see what happens this next go around. I think that they want to, before anything is done, I think you want to see what Josh looks like in the playoffs. Give him the whole series. Because like we have the in-season tournament where he played well. How does he play against a team that is scheming against him for, 5 to 7 games, 4 to 7 games? What happens? What does that look like? How do the Thunder react? Can they adjust? Do they adjust? Is the adjustment taking him off the court? Is the adjustment putting him in the dunker spot? Is the adjustment putting him in the middle of the court? Like, what's the adjustment? And does it work? I think that's what I also would really like to see it, before anything happens. And I think that's a most likely way this is going to play out. And I'm not here to say like, oh, they'll never trade him. He's the crown jewel of the rebuild. Like, he's not that. He's not. Like, they have their big three. They have their best players, but he's a very unusual player, which causes people, makes him polarizing, honestly. Like, because he is such an unusual player, he's polarizing. And also the fact that we know the kinds of players that play well with Shea are like good to outrageously good shooters. That makes the fit a little difficult. And so all that to say, I don't think like Josh Giddey trade rumors are going to heat up or anything anytime soon. I think we're going to get a chance to see what this team does in the playoffs. Maybe they add 1 or 2 pieces. and that's where this is headed. So, like in
Yeah.
any of our like Giddy for Cam Thomas or Cam Johnson scenarios, are just like it's
No, Ken
all.
Thomas, no. No.
He's like the most anti-Thunder player ever.
Yeah.
I just don't
Is
think
there a
any of that is
guy?
going to happen. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I know that it's not going to happen, but is there a guy on the Brooklyn Nets roster that you would say, yeah, I would trade Giddy if that was the player that I'm getting back?
I mean,
Like, yeah. Do you think that the price for Mikel will be like Giddy, Kazan, and 4 first rounders, something like that?
I don't know that it'll be that high, but like it would be. I wouldn't do Kaysen and 4 first rounders. No,
Okay.
no chance I would do that. I'm a huge Kaysen Wallace believer. Like, the guy has every tool that you would want a role player on this team to have.
This is exactly why people will ask for him, because everybody believes in those tools.
Yeah, of course. The Thunder just drafted him 10th. They're not trading him. They have enough picks to say we don't have to trade him. Because if they really did, like, let's say Mikal became available and the Nets were into having 2 Australian 6'8" guys that can't shoot. Like, we need that combination. We must have that combination. Then I would just say, like, okay, we'll go to 5 first rounders with Giddy and, Bertans. And picks. Like, if that were the case, like, I think that's what that's what the picks are for. Like, that's what you have them for.
Isn't
like,
it crazy that Mikel takes just like a third more than Dort? That is an outrageous deal.
It's a great deal. And he'll demand a much bigger deal after that, which is why, like, if you were to make a big deal, you would probably have to trade Josh, because he's going to get a deal that is much bigger than the deal he has now.
Yeah.
And so, like, to me, if you were going to make a trade for somebody else, you would have to almost like take the salary slot of like what you think Giddy could make. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
but 24 in 2 years. Like, you have two and a half years of Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, it's great. He also doesn't solve your rebounding problem if you're thinking of like sliding him in for Giddy. Like,
yeah, I know, but can you imagine the defense? Like, that would be like that starting unit.
Yeah, they would be sick. They'd fly around everywhere. That he would thrive with Shea and with Dub and with Chet. Yeah. I mean, it'd be great. His deal is why I don't think he'll be available. And if it is like picks that they want, like, the Thunder can just come in and just like go over the top and just say whatever you want, and like that's I believe that someday, I don't think it'll be this trade deadline, but I do believe someday that kind of deal will open up. This Thunder team will have proven themselves ready, and Sam will step up and say 5 or 6 first rounders for this exact player that we need, plus, salary filler, and that kind of deal will happen at some point. Like, I do believe like that's what the picks are for. It's at some point. I don't think it's today. Even as much as like most Thunder fans would want something like that to happen, like if that happened today, people would flip, would absolutely lose it. People would be so excited, but I just don't think it's time for something like that quite yet.
No, I don't think that.
I believe that time is coming. Like, that time is as this team continues to get better and better, that time is drawing nearer and nearer.
Yeah, I think that we have to. I agree with you that unless one of those players can come in for a very reasonable amount, like say that, for example, Cam Johnson says, "Okay, I really want to go somewhere else to play," or they want to have some like cap flexibility going forward or whatever. Say, okay, 2 first and Bertans. I mean, you kind of have to do that deal. Like, if that is the deal
for who?
For Cam Johnson, you kind of have to.
That would be like a very opportunistic opportunistic type of
even if
deal.
it's Cheng, like like they say, okay, let's try out this guy.
Sure.
We don't like these
Yeah, I
kind
mean,
of deals,
yeah,
or
and
even
I think
Wiggins. Like I love Wiggins. He's a good player. He's a very good controllable player.
yeah,
But if you can
I
get
yeah, I don't
like a
think
player like
next
this,
that's not gonna happen.
I'm. But who is offering more?
I
Like
don't know.
which
I
contender
don't think they're trading
can,
him, though. I just don't think they're trading those guys.
yeah, to
I
end up
just
like Toronto, where
dude, so
you
there's
just
so many teams. There's so many teams. Like the problem with the Nets is like they don't control their own picks.
yeah, exactly. This is why you need to get more. Like I see a team like Orlando putting an offer for a guy like Cam Johnson, and
I
they may
don't know if they
trade.
want more picks. They still have extra picks. I think what they want is to add like somebody who is actually good.
Yeah, but like Cam Johnson would not give you that.
I'm
The
not saying Cam
salary,
will. I'm not saying Cam will. I think like taking like some of the Suns picks and Cam and DFS and like whatever else, you know, that
can
kind of
get you
offer.
where.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
You see, to me, like I'm not trying to convince you that two first and whatever package is enough for Cam Johnson, but like if you want to trade for a megastar, um,
Yeah. And with that said, if I'm the Thunder, I'm looking at more guys like Cam Johnson than some megastar because
sure,
I don't I don't want somebody to come in to this team and change what they are at all. And I don't think Cam Johnson would do something like that. That's why I think a player like that would make sense
mhm.
for a team like this. Is like adding a player on the fringes that can be one of your like 7 best players. Not one
Yeah,
of your 3, but one of your 7 because I do believe they have their 3 best players and they have to figure out like what kind of role players do we need around them. Like that to me is the stage that they're at. I think they've reached that stage where Shea is a top 3 player, top 1 player at times. Chet, I think is if he's not already a top 30, I think he's a top 30 heading into being a top 20, top 10 kind of guy. I believe in Chet to like an insane degree. And the same with Dub. Like I think that trio could end up being the best trio in Oklahoma City Thunder history, which is like why you just don't touch it and you let it grow and you let them figure it out and you actually like be so intentional about the kind of players and the kind of people and the kind of everything that you put around them because one, you have some time, and two, you don't want to screw this up. Like this could be one of the most special groups in NBA history.
yeah,
Like they have that kind of potential. And so like if I'm OKC, like boy, I am doing whatever I can to make sure that I am treating this roster and those 3 with the most intentional care possible to get them to where they want to go and help them to grow. And I think
yeah,
getting them to the playoffs this year, allowing them to grow through it is probably the like definitely like the best way to go about it. And then like, yeah, let's figure it out afterwards, you know? But like the truth is like if they do or don't make a trade between, now and the next 4 weeks, it just doesn't really matter that much because they've got those 3.
yeah,
And
sure, sure,
this is the first year they haven't even played a playoff game together yet. They haven't played one playoff game, one
yeah,
series yet together. And so like we can't like just try to hit the accelerator, get to the playoffs and be like, holy smokes, like we traded for Cam Johnson, but like we're worse rebounding team than we were before. Well, now we
sure.
have to fix that. Like we got to plug this hole and that. Like, whoa. Like, can we just like see what this team is first before we
Yeah,
start solving
I agree
problems
with that
we don't
sentence.
really have?
You can also say that even if that is true, you get a lights out shooter, and you you have someone who everybody wants.
Yeah,
It's not that if Cam Johnson comes to OKC and then you reroute him 1 year later, it changes the value dramatically. So I think that there are moves that you can make no matter what. And to me, one thing that it's not about the last 2 games. To me, it's the only thing that is making me a little bit more helpful hopeful, about Giddy, is that the 3 ball is actually going in,
Yeah.
even when he takes a huge number. And that is the only thing that for which I'm willing to give a little bit more time, because the defense, is not good. The discussion that we had in July, August is that, Chet will improve this. He improved that for Dort, not for
Mm,
Giddy.
mm.
The 3-point shot and the free throw shots, in terms of
Yeah.
percentage and amount over the past 10 games, is something that gives me, maybe we want to see this a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because if he takes 8 shots, 6 threes per game, 5 threes per game, and he makes 37, that is something that changes the way in which defenses are guarding you. Because Giddy
Yeah.
is not afraid. It doesn't take too
That's
much to let it
definitely
go.
something about him. Yeah, he's
And
not.
if you close out, he surely can beat you.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how to trust those numbers, but that is the only thing that right now is giving me a pause to say, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't see up to now, but this thing is also something that I never saw from Giddy. Like,
Yeah.
to have a 10-game stretch where
15, 15 games. The last 15 games. 50, 42, 82.
yeah. Yeah. This is something where numbers can be tricky. 15 games are not a big enough sample size for shooting. We saw with Dort many times, like shooting 40% over a 20-game stretch and then going back.
He's up to 37% on the season from 3.
Yeah, which is a little bit interesting. Maybe a little bit more than a little bit. It's still clunky when he's out there for some reasons, because defenses are just not guarding him.
Yeah. He's got it. He has to make them pay. And in some of the biggest moments against the Minnesota Timberwolves, against the Boston Celtics,
He did.
he did it. And so
But
another
that,
great reason to
if you
bring up
frame
that,
it this way,
let's
if
wait. Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying, if you frame it this way, like, we're starting to see something different from Josh. And I
Yeah.
believe that this is something that we need to see before we move. I couldn't say no, Andrew, this is not something that is worth,
Yeah.
because that is what we advocate for. Like Giddy
Yeah.
being this passing savant, which we're seeing some of those passes going back, which is
It's
also
starting to
very
come
good.
back a little bit. Yeah. It's starting to come back a little bit.
And the fact that the 3-ball is going in, like you say, okay, this is something that I can wait a year, because if that guy goes somewhere else and it goes like a 50, 37, 82 while getting 7 rebounds and 6 assists,
Mm-hmm.
and you remove that guy, to that can be like a connected tissue, not the max guy, but maybe a 20, 22 millions kind of guy,
Mm-hmm.
you really did something wrong.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for listening to our show. Hope you guys are having an awesome Monday. The Thunder play the Wizards tonight in DC. Boy, they better destroy the Wizards tonight. Then they get Miami on Wednesday night. It's a tough opponent. And then they're back in Oklahoma City Thursday for a road home back-to-back against the Portland Trailblazers, who have been playing better lately. So, interesting week. Then they finish off with Orlando at home on Saturday. So, interesting little stretch here. Like a really bad team, a couple pretty good teams, another pretty bad team. It'll be interesting to see just how they kind of bounce back from all of that. Thank you so much for listening and watching here on YouTube. If you could hit subscribe, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, if you're listening to this on your podcast app, please subscribe to our YouTube page. Hit the like button. Do all of those things that are very helpful for us. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and we'll talk to you guys again on Wednesday.